try and get him added in. All right.
Hey.
Yes. What is going on, my man? How you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I couldn't figure out how to connect, and then I was hearing you, and then when I joined, everything dropped off. So,
Well,
okay.
here we are, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Let me say, first and foremost, thank you so much. Not only for being on today, but the help in the past. And, you've been such a trooper, man. I absolutely fucking love the shop and everything that you do. So thank you very much, first and foremost, dude.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Totally. So this is going to be, so much fun. I mean, just kind of digging into your own personal, enjoyment in film, not only horror, but film in general. And then kind of, bringing us up to speed up until today. Let's rewind all the way back, as far as earlier memories to you and where film kind of came in and who were, people that were introducing, really critical things to you early on.
Yeah, definitely my dad. He tells me, and my mom tells me that when he was going to school at University of Texas in Austin, that my mother would take me to see movies during the day while he was at classes. And according to the two of them, I saw American Graffiti probably about 45 times. I have no recollection of this. I must have been a toddler and have no recollection, but there was other things. I do recall going to see Fantastic Planet around this time, which is to this day had a lasting effect on me. Although I do find the film a little dull these days, but so going way back to a toddler, film has been important to me.
I love it. That's so awesome. So where does horror get introduced to you? I mean, you mentioned Fantastic Planet, but just the genre where it was like, why am I even watching this possibly at this age?
I particularly remember going to like a local, I don't know if it was a used bookshop or comic book shop, some sort of shop that had a lot of magazines and junk just laying around. And I walked by and picked up a bloody best of Fangoria.
Okay.
And on the cover of that was, I can't even remember, but Evil Dead, basket case.
Oh, man.
And I was just like, what in the world is this? I've got to know more. And that was, right at the beginning of the whole video explosion where all these things just came out on video and everything from all over the world was on video. Although, reading those as a kid, I had no idea this was a Spanish production or, this was an Italian production. I just knew them as horror movies. Yeah. So, I was definitely a video store kid.
Okay, that's awesome. And I guess, segueing, from there, one of the things that I love about your site is it brings me back to that time of us being able to go through video stores and local rentals, along with bigger chains. What were the spots that were local to you that you were discovering some of the maybe obscure titles that you had never heard of or a cool local video rental to you? What do you remember about these places?
I actually worked at a West Coast video, which I don't think it was a national chain, but it was definitely an East Coast chain. Mm-hmm. Worked there 10 years. So
shit. Wow.
Had a lot to do with, watching things all the time and, curating what was carried in the store when things got sold off. My friends and I bought all those things. And that was actually kind of the beginning of Diabolik Dvd. Was we used to set up, we do this thing still in Philadelphia area called Exhumed Films, where we partner up with a theater and show movies almost always on 35 millimeter. And I would bring VHS tapes to the shows and sell them on a table there. And that was kind of, segued into, well, what else can I sell here? And then it was, DVDs. Look at this thing.
Sick. That is so awesome. I mean, we're going to get ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but from there, I guess even where did it transition into a website, into, because you kind of mentioned DVDs. Was it initially like, did you have figures and things like that when you were going to this place, or was this always strictly physical, like movies?
No, it's almost always movies.
Okay.
You know, we've been doing this so long, it was back in a time when there wasn't things like Shopify or Big Cartel where you could just set up a store. It wasn't that easy. I remember that pretty early on, I went to a local place that did web design, and they wanted $100,000 to design a website. And that's no
so
joke.
crazy.
I mean, I was just like,
I know.
yeah, I got up and walked out. So,
Yeah. Right. Okay.
to think now that you can just log into Shopify for $14.99 a month and get 10 times the amount of, computer magic that these people wanted to offer me for $100,000.
Yeah. God, that's so crazy. And I just laugh just because I remember friends being in those same type of situations and somebody coming up with, maybe it was like, maybe something more of like a 10 grand, but still it's like, dude, we're just young kids trying to figure out, some sort of little hustle. 10 grand,
Yeah,
who has that?
it's crazy.
So that's insane. Okay, so kind of tone it back a little bit before we dive even more in that. So within horror, and maybe even one thing that I love about Diabolik is is that we love horror, and we get plenty of that, but there's also kung fu, and there's also sci-fi and different things that are kind of adjacent. Within those, if you could come up with 3 scenes over time that you remember that have just been ingrained in your brain, whether they were disgusting, scary when you were young, or just plain unforgettable, what would be something that would pop up in your head there as far as 3 scenes in films that you've seen over the years?
All right. I mean, this may be a little predictable, but things that I always think about are in John Carpenter's Thing, where the guy's head pulls off and turns into a spider.
Yes.
Which is to this day, I don't know how in the world they did that, and it's amazing.
It is.
In Evil Dead, which this is so funny because the other day I was listening to Eli Roth. It was either on his own podcast or he was on the Video Archives podcast. But he was talking about Evil Dead and how much it scared him as a kid. And I always think about the scene where the woman gets the pencil in the ankle.
Oh yeah.
Or actually, is it the guy that gets? Anyway, someone gets a pencil in the ankle.
Yeah.
And not only do they just get the pencil in the ankle, but it's moving it around. And it's such a lasting effect.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't know what this was for the longest time, but as a kid, I watched a movie, as a lot of people my age probably did, on Saturday afternoon. There was always a horror double feature on. And Philadelphia certainly had the creature double feature. The last 10 minutes or so of Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Oh yeah.
And I had no idea what it was for years and years and years. And then I happened to watch it and I was like, oh shit, this is that movie that I always think about, the hand popping out and then everybody climbing out of the dirt and then Orville sitting on that bed. It scared the shit out of me, and it still does. And the rest of the movie is kind of dog shit, but that last segment makes up for the entire movie.
Yes. I mean, I love that you mentioned, all the scenes that you mentioned too. It's been quite a while since I've seen Children, so I would have to go back and I would have to watch that. But I do remember having a DVD, a used DVD copy. I think I got from a Schuler Books over here in Michigan. We had different book shops that were a little bit. Do they have those on the East Coast too?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we kind of have nothing in this area. I'm right outside of Philadelphia, and there's not much.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny too, just because of, I guess, even with your shop that you have here, and then you have Vinegar Syndrome in Connecticut now.
Yeah.
It kind of seems, like as far as like a lot of friends that have mentioned that, like over in the area, the East Coast, they're like, man, we don't have shit, but there's some cool stuff going on now for sure. Making up for it.
I mean, it's no doubt. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Vinegar Syndrome shop is about, I don't know, 2.5 hours from me.
Okay.
So it's not
Okay.
it's not around the corner, but
Right.
it's worth the drive.
Totally. So as far as your collecting now, was that ever something that, through the years that you were, a fan and collected and had multiples of, or was it something to where you had just always kind of appreciated the community?
Both. But, with the way things are today, it's just impossible to keep up with everything, to keep, a copy of every title that you want to keep.
Mm-hmm.
It just gets to be so much. I mean, how many copies of the thing can I have?
Right.
Oh, look at this one. This looks amazing. Do I want to keep this? I just can't. I just don't have the room for it. Well, I mean, I could leave it at the warehouse, but that doesn't do me much good.
Yeah, right. And it's funny just because they're recently Shout Factory put out a newer, whatever 4-disc of Army of Darkness, and I look over and I'm like, how many fucking copies of this movie do I have and do I need? I can't lie, I love it, but man, it's always the artwork, that's a big sell, and that's a huge thing. Another thing that I love about, having the shop there as well is being able to go through, even today, kind of sifting through the main page there and the media books, the X media book was that like a German import?
It's German, yeah.
Those things are bad,
it's gorgeous.
man.
Those things are
absolutely
all gorgeous.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
The problem with
go
media
ahead.
books is if they don't sell, they just sit here. they're an expensive paperweight if they're sitting on the shelf. So it's hard to, plus they're so expensive to ship in from Germany.
Right.
But they're so gorgeous, and I love carrying them. But it's not the most ideal thing to carry in a shop. And they're so fragile too.
Yeah, right. Well, I've had different friends on here, just within like the horror community, or friends from even outside of the country, UK, or different things that I've mentioned as far as looking into media books or looking into different physical. And I'm like, I recommend the shop because I'm like, dude, you have to check out some of the stuff that you have here. Some of the fun. I believe I got the Psycho Gorman from you guys there. Did you have the media book?
We did.
Yeah. Okay.
We've had a lot of versions of that movie, but
so I mean it's awesome. And I guess even from you mentioning through the earlier years of working at the video rental, have there been certain things that you held on to early on that you're happy that you did now today that is like a far out of print, or something that's just kind of a favorite in your collection?
I still have a big box of laser discs that I've just never gotten rid of.
Yes.
I have boxes of DVDs that I've never gotten rid of. But, as far as things going out of print, I always think that something's coming around the corner. So, I don't think I have anything that's, look at this rare thing that I have. I can't believe I still have this that isn't already available again elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything just comes out. Yeah.
Right. I feel like, you have, what is the, is it 12 to Midnight, the old TV Halloween movie? What the fuck is that movie called? Shit, I should have thought of it. I know, like, The Woman in Black, that was something that for a long time they had only like a couple of DVD copies of. So I would have to think of what the fucking Halloween movie is. I'm thinking of now. Anyway, it's not important.
Was it Midnight Hour?
The Midnight Hour.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah. Has
that's
there ever been an
super
official
rare.
release for that?
Anchor Bay did a Blu-ray back in the day, if I remember correctly, but there's never been another. I think that there may be some issue with the music rights.
Oh shit. Okay.
There's a lot of music in that.
The Midnight Hour. Okay. Yeah. I think it's on YouTube. So if you go
It's
to
definitely
watch
on
it, but
YouTube. Yeah.
yeah, it's still kind of fun to see those things. You have like Clown House, which I guess knowing the history of that movie, that's something that you might not necessarily want another a copy of, by any means.
It's true.
But
You
so as
know,
far as go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say when Clown House, there was an official DVD release of that at one point through
Yeah.
MGM,
Hmm.
and MGM got cold feet and pulled the plug on it, but there was inventory,
Hmm.
and someone sold us hundreds of copies of them back in the day for nothing, like a couple bucks. And
Damn.
yeah, we resold those for a long time, getting rid of them all. But you know, the movie's creepy and effective, but knowing the history of it, it's a little tough to take.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I actually somebody had gotten that for me for years, and that's one of those ones where I'm like, do I sell it? Do I hold on? Because like the movie's not terrible, but it's just the story behind is kind of
Yeah,
uncomfortable. Yeah.
yeah, it's true. But meanwhile, there's what, 4 or 5 Jeepers Creepers now?
Yeah. Yeah. Keeps on going. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, touching on something like that, as far as have there been maybe even early on uh, irrational fears that develop? You watch a movie and maybe you're a kid and you see a dark hallway, or for myself, sharks. I'm surrounded in lake water, and for whatever reason, I always thought there was a shark underneath me. What comes to mind as far as irrational fears that popped up from movies you've seen over the years?
Oh, there's always going to be a wolf man around the corner waiting to get me. Oh, and also as raised Catholic, I'm always going to get possessed. I'm going to
Yeah.
get possessed, and the
Yeah.
wolf man is going to get me.
I mean, what wolf werewolf movies have made impressions over the years? What are some of your favorite that you always appreciate?
Well, the Universal werewolf is great. I just love it. But hands down, the 1-2 punch of The Howling and American Werewolf in London at an early age.
Oh yeah.
Those were released right around the same time. I
Hmm.
distinctly remember going to the movie theater to see both of them, but we went to see. My dad would take me to see all of these things, or my mom would take me to see all of them. There never seemed to be any discretion about taking a 10-year-old to see American Werewolf in London.
Oh, God.
But I do remember we went to see The Howling one day, and it was sold out.
Hmm.
And back in the day, there would be a movie theater that had 6 screens, and they showed 6 movies. And if it was sold out, it was sold out. It wasn't starting again 10 minutes later.
Hmm.
So we went to see that. It was sold out. So we saw the Funhouse instead. So
Oh man.
yeah, that was the state of things as when I was a kid. This is what was playing. There was always a horror movie playing in the movie theater, and things that would go straight to video today, or straight to VOD, were theatrical movies. I mean, I saw The Kindred in the movie theater. I saw Dead Time
It's
Stories in the
awesome.
movie theater. I mean, this is
Awesome.
everything would just play in the theater.
Man, and the Funhouse. I guess talking on like lasting impressions as far. I think honestly that movie was the first time I saw boobs, which is kind of a weird impression to have. But that movie early on, and then the Frankenstein mask.
Yeah,
Hopefully, nobody hasn't seen the Funhouse, but or
yeah.
then it's gonna ruin it. But good lord, that scene forever. I don't remember how old I was when I first saw it, but him getting the mask knocked off and the creature face underneath. Holy shit.
The creature underneath, and if I remember correctly, Rob Bottin did that. He did The Thing too. So he
Yeah.
did both of those and The Howling. Uh, that guy was RoboCop and Videodrome. The guy was amazing.
It's nuts. With the thing too, with that scene. Recently, I watched the Halloween Ends, the last installment of those movies or whatever, and there's a scene in that movie where they're watching
They're watching The Thing,
the
yeah.
thing, and that scene comes on, and I always forget about that scene is so creepy, but then you also have those like eerie sound effects. I don't know if it's so much a score as it is the yelling, and it's kind of like real distant and echoey, but that's always been something too with horror, you know, is I think even right now that's kind of coming back is the appreciation of score and music. Does anything come to mind as far as favorites from the years, score wise?
Score wise, you know, I thought you were going to say what sound design, but score wise,
Either or, shit.
you know,
Something in mind.
I was, yeah, well, I was, oddly enough, I was always a big James Bond fan, and I collected those records. So every time there was a new James Bond movie, I would buy the soundtrack. Probably mostly because I like the theme song and the hit or miss, you know, celebrity theme song, but also the James Bond song. But you know, there's no denying the scores to all the early Carpenter movies, all the Carpenter movies really, and you know, I could never say Goblin because I didn't know who the hell Goblin was. You know, I remember when I worked at the video store, we had Deep Red and we had Creepers, so I had certainly heard Goblin and Simonetti, but Suspiria was actually a big VHS release. It came out, you know, in the mid '90s on VHS. Prior to that, I'd never heard of the movie.
Oh wow!
I mean, there was not really any way to see Suspiria. And then I remember watching that for the first time and saying, "What the hell is this score? This is craziness." So then, you know, I went back and looked, and also there was no IMDb, so I couldn't say what else did these people do.
Yeah.
So, you know, going back and saying, "Oh, these are the same people that did, you know, Deep Red," and now we live in an age where, you know, Goblin tours, and John Carpenter tours, and Fabio Frizzi tours. It's just amazing.
It's wild.
Yeah,
You know,
totally wild.
And you know, for anybody, you know, making any comment toward like the new Halloween movies, the scores to those, you know, I know it's not just John Carpenter, it's his son, and then one other fella, I think, too. But man, even in this newest one, there is some absolute standout, and I won't get into any of that because I know people are enraged by the last and all that. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I actually went to the theater to see it.
Okay, yeah. What did you think without any sort of spoiler?
No spoilers. I thought the movie was fine. I was entertained by the movie. I liked the movie. I was engaged by the movie. I think it was a disservice to call it a Halloween movie.
Okay.
You know, let's just say if I had the Halloween franchise and I was going to end it, I would have probably done it a little different. I liked it. You know, there are some shitty sequels for Friday the 13th and Halloween. There's some shitty movies. This is not a horrible movie by any means, but it really doesn't do any favors to its fan base.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I leaned a little bit more toward I was actually a fan of it, and it could have been just because of all of the negativity I was seeing, to where I went into it and I was like, this is going to be the worst thing I've ever seen. I got to the finish. I was like, shit, this is actually. I had watched the majority, probably 3/4 of the movie by myself because I didn't want any sort of impression, like my wife, kid, nothing. I just wanted it to be like, well, if I don't like it, I don't like it. And I watched the first, like 3/4 of it. I was like, this is not bad. Maybe the finale is horrible and it's going to kill it, but yeah. So anyway, so let's go. Have you ever seen any of those guys, Goblin or anybody touring, or have you ever gone to like a show where they're playing live music?
Yeah. I've seen 3 different incarnations of Goblin over the years.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm about to see a 4th one. They're touring again.
Yes.
I saw Fabio Frizzi a couple times. I saw John Carpenter a couple times. Both times he came to Philly.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing to see those guys play live.
Man, it's so cool, to see some of that stuff and to hear the music and the different things, in a live setting. I guess myself, also being involved in music, it's a different appreciation from going to, like maybe a heavy concert or a metal show and going and seeing that stuff and be like, holy shit, like I grew up with this stuff, and now seeing the guy who wrote or composed it, it's cool. It's awesome.
Oh, it's amazing. I think of those three,
Hmm.
the I think the Fabio Frizzi was my favorite.
Gee, okay, wow.
I,
Now,
I I just thought he was, I don't know, the most authentic. He just seemed to be so happy to be there and playing, and his scores. Not to take anything away from Carpenter or Goblin, because I love them all, but Frizzi was the best for me.
damn, that's awesome. So from this earlier incarnation you mentioned, as far as selling the VHS and different things like that, how did it end up getting into a website, and where did that all actually begin as far as taking the business to a different step?
Initially, we were a lot of Asian films. And in particular, I remember when Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out, it came out on DVD in Hong Kong before it was out here in
Mm,
theaters. So I had a copy of that movie right around the same time it opened in the theater.
wow.
And that was, you know, kind of the start of bringing these things in, and how can we sell these. Early on it was a lot of, putting things up on, I don't even remember how we did it, just like a simple HTML page, and then people
Okay.
and then people would PayPal us.
Oh shit. Okay.
And then there was, a fair amount of sales on eBay, which I hardly even look at anymore, except to buy things, but I don't really sell on there anymore.
Okay.
They're kind of absurd with their prices and policies, and I'm just not that interested in it. I mean, I got enough to deal with on the website, that why do I want to sell something on eBay and give somebody else even a cut of it?
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
but early on it was any way we can.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember as far as how some of those connections came about, or was it those Hotmail accounts that you were mentioning, as far as, because especially for that time, the internet wasn't a thing where you had a connection through here that I could speak with somebody over in Japan or over in Indonesia, to make those things.
Yeah, it was it was a lot of emailing, and there was no Google Translate either. So um, it was it was going back and forth with people who didn't speak English, and I didn't speak their language, and trying to figure it all out, and getting them money. It wasn't that easy as it is now, where there's, you know PayPal and Wise, and I can think of a half a dozen other services to send people money all over the world. But
Yeah.
then
Wow.
it was a pain in the ass. Sometimes it was going to the bank and,
Jesus.
wiring $1,000 to somebody I didn't know in the Netherlands to get some discs.
Oh my God. I can only imagine some of these gambles didn't pay out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh,
And or they, the money was fine and the product was sent, and then the product would come and it was garbage.
oh
You know,
no.
and that still happens, but
Oh
it's.
no.
I got a box the other day from a carrier, um, and it had been raining for a couple of days. And that box came here, the entire box. I was holding it in my hand, and water was dripping off of it from
Oh,
inside the box, that was falling apart in my hands. And I finally got it down. I didn't even have to cut it open. I just kind of pulled it apart because it was all just soaked.
oh my God.
And the driver was like, I guarantee you that was just sitting on a runway someplace, and they just left it sitting out there. He's like, that was
Oh,
put on my truck like that. I was like, yeah.
God
So,
damn.
that happens. It happens.
Man, what a bummer. And so I guess not knowing, like, from that aspect, obviously that gets sent back and then it has to be reassessed from people that have purchased, or is it, does it luck out and be like a pre-order,
You
piece of
know,
merchandise?
in this case, it was a mixed bag of stuff. It was, some
Mm,
pre-order stuff and some stuff that restocks, but
okay.
um, it was it was so well packed by the shipper with like he had put some weird, um, it wasn't like paper, but it was like this glossy paper, almost like a thick, um, I don't even know how to describe it, but anyway, it had it had repelled most of the water, so it wasn't that bad.
Oh shit! Wow.
Yeah, and we do things where we do a scratch and dent or
Uh,
damaged in the mail
mm,
sale, which isn't always ideal. I'd like to have everything perfect going out to everybody. Sometimes this shit happens.
can't control everything, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
Uh,
it's a lot. You know, things are coming in from all over the place all the time, and um, people don't have the same kind of Joe Schmo that works at a warehouse in Wisconsin that's packing this box for another company doesn't really care what that slipcover looks like
yeah,
when it
no,
gets put in the box. He's not picking them out for me in mint condition, so they get to me perfectly.
it's
And then
awesome.
the carriers sure don't give a shit. But
Right.
yeah,
Fucking collectors.
hey,
Toss it
I get it. You
somewhere.
pay $100 for a box set. You want to get a box set that's in good condition. I understand that. It's
Yeah, yeah.
kind of the way it is.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. But I mean, an awesome thing is anything that I've ever had, any sort of questions or, inquiry whatsoever. It's great, to be able to reach out to you guys and always get something back, always hear something back, receive, some sort of information as far as that. Now, how has the business, grown as far as that initial? Do you have other coworkers? Do you have other, how has that worked from the beginning there?
We had always worked out of our houses for the longest time.
Hmm.
And it got to a point where it was too much. And I had been looking for some space and ended up, kind of building a garage on my property to mainly be for the business. Initially, it was going to be, oh, this is going to be fine. We'll have place to park a car in one side, and then I'll run the business out of the other. And then 10 minutes after the building was built, the whole garage was filled with DVDs. A car has never been in that garage to this day. And then, it's just gotten to a point where everything has just kept growing, and all the labels keep pumping out more and more titles. It's really gotten to be a golden age of home video.
Dude, you ain't lying.
Yeah, it was the VHS days were fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many amazing things out, and then Anchor Bay stepped up to the plate and really opened the doors for collectors, releasing just everything
Mm-hmm.
from Repo Man to the Manchester Morgue to Suspiria, and then they really opened those floodgates.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now it's just when Vinegar Syndrome is putting out 18 titles a month between their titles and their partner titles, I had to move to a bigger location. There was just no choice. There was no way I could do it out of the garage anymore.
I mean, it's funny touching on that, as far as like even myself, like a personal story with going to the local like video shops and video rentals, and even the Blockbusters and Family Videos and all the bigger, big box stores. You always kind of felt like you knew every movie that was out there. Like, oh, okay, maybe I haven't seen this one, but I know the cover. Yeah, I've seen Magic and Popcorn and all. But then all of a sudden, like you mentioned, these Vinegar Syndrome and some of these, these boutique titles that are releasing some of these movies. It's like, where the fuck did they find these? Where do they?
Yeah,
And even Cauldron, we'll get onto that, here in a
yeah.
minute too. I mean, like it's absolutely insane, some of the stuff that they have unearthed one way or another.
It is true. I I am a huge champion of Mondo Macabro. I just,
Yeah.
even if I don't like a movie they put out, I'm always interested to see that movie that they put out. It's always something that I want to watch.
Okay.
You know,
Love
I
that.
mean, Mystics in Bali and Lady Terminator and a la carta. Back in the video store days, we had a la carta in the video store, and we had it under that title, and we also had it the same movie as Sisters of Satan. And there was a time when I was going through all of these weird movies that we rented and rented those two movies in the same week, not knowing they were the same movie. And I just ended up watching them. I watched it a second time. And the same thing with Nightmare, that crazy Italian movie. We had that under Blood Splash as well.
Oh shit.
And I rented both of those, and I was like, oh, I know this movie. I've already seen it more than
Oh
once, but
man.
now here it is again.
That's awesome. I remember Cemetery Man. I had a similar situation where I had that, and I believe I bought another copy of it. It was under a different title. Maybe it was even like an Italian release that I just didn't realize, or it still looked like English. I can't even remember what the damn title of it was, but I get it home and I'm like, fuck, I already have this movie.
Yeah, of course.
Being a young kid and it being allowance, it's like, man, I already spent all my allowance on this thing I already have. God damn it.
It's worth owning, though. And where's
Yeah.
that Blu-ray?
Yeah, totally. That, yeah, for real. It's so funny because like I can totally, appreciate like the effect of there being another Evil Dead, or there being, even recently the Alligator and Alligator 2 releases on 4K and Blu-ray or whatever.
Amazing.
But there's so many movies out there where it's like, dude, it would be cool just to have like a disc release. What was one, Trauma? Have you watched that? It's like a Dario Argento
Which,
movie.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that was when we had it from the VHS days too.
Never even heard of it. Vinegar Syndrome releases it. The slipcover is absolutely amazing. Pick that up. I was like, holy shit, this movie rocks.
Yeah,
Never
it's
heard of
great.
it.
I really like that movie a lot. I would argue that was probably his last really good movie.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, and such classic stuff too, but like it was just funny out of that being something where, a boutique label puts it out. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I got to check this out.
Yeah,
This is cool. Wow.
it
So,
had a really spotty history on home
okay.
video.
Wow, I'd never heard of it. That was rad. I love that. So as
It's
far as
good.
where does now Cauldron? Now yourself and Brian, who is going to be on tonight, I'll end up getting that rascal on here, in the next couple of weeks or so, and have him and talk
We'll
with
get
him
them on,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, but so where does Cauldron come into play, and how did maybe some of your contacts from doing Diabolik help support creating your own?
Well, Cauldron came into being. Brian was a Diabolik customer, and he was a Boston guy, so he would come down and help me do shows, and we spent a lot of time sitting around a table, talking shit about movies, and I can't remember the exact genesis of it all, but we were pretty keen on releasing American Rickshaw, which we did.
Oh
But
yeah.
we were sitting at a convention and said, shit, why don't we release this? Without mentioning any names, it was kind of a conversation like, we should release some movies because look at this dog shit that these other people put out. And, I shouldn't say that because then someone's going to say, well, fuck you guys. You guys did a shitty job on something. So, but anyway, it was basically like, if this guy can do it, then we can do it. Totally. So, yeah. So, that's kind of where Cauldron started. And I didn't think Cauldron had never intended to be more than a couple of releases, but we have probably around, off the top of my head, 20 things pending. It's a good number of things.
Damn. Wow. You're talking right now?
It's a lot not to share them all. Yeah. We have enough going into the next year and probably into the following year of releases.
Damn, no shit. Wow, that's
true
awesome.
Story. Yeah.
So like when you look into that, what are certain things? I mean, obviously you have to look into the pricing and what it's going to cost for creating a product. But is something like a slipcover, is that something that is is essential to a release? That's something that you guys are putting on your name.
We've had a lot of discussion about that in-house, and we wanted to keep everything kind of uniform. So I think that, and almost anything that's going to be a Cauldron release is going to be in that same slipcover and with the same design on the spine and on the packaging. It's evolved a little bit over the 10 or so releases that we have, but we want it to be someone to look at it and say, this is a Cauldron release. This looks like a Cauldron release.
Sick. I love that. I know a buddy of mine on here, we had gone back and forth. It was probably maybe even a year ago, maybe a couple of years ago, we were talking just as far as different labels and releasing. And he had mentioned Cauldron. He's like, anytime you see something pop up on here, it's not going to last very long. Jump on top of it. If you're not super huge into it, it'll resell. And I'm like, shit, he was not lying.
Yeah. I mean, we have upped those numbers from the initial, the first two, we were a little nervous of how many we should make, and they did sell out right away. And then the next two, the Beyond Terror and Crimes of the Black Cat were kind of the same way. Those had all been in the works together. So, after that, everything is still available except for those first four. So you can get them now if you want them, but they are getting pretty low.
Oh wow! Now, what did you end up? Was it initially? Was it 150 or was it 250 with the initial two, American Rickshaw, and then the other release? What did you guys settle on as far as how many you were printing?
For a Blu-ray, you have to do 1,000. They won't press.
Okay.
They won't press less than 1,000. So okay. we were at 1,000 for those for sure.
Oh, okay.
I don't recall off the top of my head. I don't think we made more than that for those two. I think that's where we just settled at the minimum. You can get a BDR made in any format, but an actual press disc starts at 1,000.
Damn. And so for those, I mean, just to sell out like that was kind of like all right, maybe we're
terrific
onto something.
Yeah, it's true.
Awesome. That's so cool. I mean, so now, I mean, obviously we're talking, foreign films. We're talking, the label, the City of the Living Dead. How is this? I know I don't want to spoil too much because I know there's still little details that aren't fully out there and everything, but. How did this come upon, being landed on? What a huge title, and so excited for this.
I am too. It is, Brian and I share a common love of that movie. And it's one of those titles that I remember picking it up at the video store, that giant zombie head on the cover over the city, and watching it, the first time I saw the movie, I thought that it was a little dull. There was, I feel that way about a lot of Italian horror movies. The first time I watched them, I thought they were dull. It's like nothing happens, nothing happens. Maggots are all over everybody. Nothing happens, nothing happens. A guy gets a drill through his head. And I really enjoyed the set pieces of Zombie and Gates of Hell and House by the Cemetery. But it was later that I watched them and said, whoa, wait, there's a lot more here. There's all this atmosphere. There's all the music. These movies are fantastic. So of those Fulci movies, the City of the Living Dead has always been my favorite.
Man.
We were, there's a couple of Italian licensors out there, and we do business with them. For Cauldron, but I've also talked to them on occasion for other things as well. And we just happened upon City of the Living Dead. I just checked on it. Somehow it was available. The rights had just expired, and we just locked it in that day. It was good. We'll take it. That's it.
Oh my God.
And we had never intended to do anything that had already been out there, especially something that's out there forever. There's always been a VHS or a DVD or a Blu-ray of City of the Living Dead. But we couldn't resist. And there's no UHD. So, it was kind of a no-brainer to say, all right, well, we're going to get this movie and we're just going to do the UHD.
Sick. That is so awesome. That's so sick.
We're so excited for it.
A lot of people resharing that and reposting and, even in different blogs kind of messaging artwork and what'll be involved with that too. So now with it being a UHD, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, that's not like a regional thing, right? That's any players?
That's right. The UHD will play worldwide. Mm-hmm. Now, every time someone mentions this online, someone has to step in and say, but wait, there are 5 discs around the world that, for whatever reason, the people that put them out locked them, so they are region coded. There's 5 of them now. It's not like everybody's doing this. But, when Blu-ray was introduced, the region coding was something that was part of the process. It was in the guidelines. But when UHD was introduced, there was no region coding. So there's no reason for people to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yes. So the UHD will be all region and playable worldwide. We'll have a Blu-ray, but the Blu-ray has to be region A for North America. That's part of the contract. A movie like that, the licensor wants to sell it to everybody. So they don't want us to have a disc that's available to play in the UK.
Oh, okay.
But the UHD is.
Man.
And I will say that we are pretty much determined to put all the extras on a separate disc even, so that those are playable worldwide too. So if you've got a UHD player and a Blu-ray player, you're going to be set for the movie and the extras.
Damn. So sick. Cannot wait, man.
I'm stoked. We have, we're still working on the actual master for the UHD. All the artwork's done. We have new extras. We have archival extras. And we have even watched the first encoding of the Blu-ray version of the movie. So, we're that far along in the process right now.
Damn, that is awesome. I mean, within this process, is there anything, that pops up as far as more of a headache that you would ever realize as far as the initial idea of like, oh yeah, let's put together a couple of movies here and have a release, and then you're like, God damn it, why is it all this?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. Brian, it's a shame he's not here because Brian is the heart here of Cauldron. I run the shop. we collaborate on things together, but Brian is the guy that sits here and looks at the color and looks at the dirt on the images. The, for example, the Fulci's Contraband that we got was the licensor said it's unusable. You cannot use the negative. And they sent us a sample of it, and Brian played around with it for a while, and he said, I think I can clean this. And he spent COVID cleaning that thing.
Oh my God.
There was, I mean, you should have seen what this thing looked like compared to what it looks like now. There were literal frames of the negative that had been folded in half.
Oh my God.
But you know, he was so determined, and by the end of it, so exhausted and sick of looking at Contraband. But man, did he do a beautiful job on that. It's so great.
Man, that's awesome. So, so cool. I know. And like I mentioned, I will get a hold of him, whether it's all three of us or if, he wants to do his own thing to, kind of tell his story and whatnot. I look forward to it. This has honestly been so sick, man. I, I can't say enough about the shop. I tell people all the time,
Thank you.
if I can pick up something from you guys, I try to, as opposed to a local Walmart or some other shit.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's hard to compete with Walmart and Best Buy and Amazon, but if you buy from us, you're buying from film fans. You're buying from people that love the movies they're selling you, whereas Jeff Bezos doesn't give a shit about anything, except
Anything.
more money.
Yeah.
He only cares about going to space and buying a yacht that's so big it needs another yacht to go with it. So,
No, it's awesome, and I think the one thing that I appreciate of being a part of the music and the film community here is just the effect of seeing how many people, particularly I guess even in the horror community, would rather order from a label or order from a shop, and mention like, oh yeah, I guess this thing's at Walmart, but I know that the company here is putting it out, and I would rather support. So it's awesome, man, and we really appreciate it, and I continually appreciate and kind of hate because of how much shit I'm having to buy.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a love hate relationship, but it's more of a love, man. So thank you so much once again, for taking the time as well tonight to digging into some of the stuff here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. That was a blast. Appreciate it.
Totally, absolutely. Well, we'll keep in touch, man, and maybe get something else going on here, or us two and Brian as well, and dig a little bit more into. But until next time, my man, take care. Have
Sounds
a good
great.
night. Thank you
Thanks.
so
Take
much.
care.
All
Bye.
right, bye bye.
Yeah.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi, a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.